And we are starting the show off on a cheesy note today. Welcome to a brand new episode of Go. I'm your host, Dana Giesbrecht, and we are on location at the Melting Pot. We are going to do some fonduing with Wesley, who's just whipping up a spinach and artichoke fondue for us at the moment. But we're also going to be talking about an organization that you've probably never heard of. They're called ACT Alberta, and they do a very important job here in this city. And they have a very fun fundraiser coming up, a Fondue-Raising Gala here at the Melting Pot that you can win your way into if you stick around till the end of the show. Stay tuned for all of that and more. But first, Shaw TV's Jordan Hertner has the perfect solution for that old couch of yours. Okay, Wesley, how am I doing mixing this?
Oh, just perfect. It's getting lots of air in it. It's starting to thicken up pretty good here.
What's the secret to a good fondue cheese?
A little bit of love, a lot of garlic, and a little arm muscle there as well.
Some arm muscle. Okay, I'm going to whip this up, and after the break, we're going to show you how they fondue professionally here at the Melting Pot. Plus, we're going to learn all about ACT Alberta, a very important organization in the city that you may have never heard of. We'll be right back here on Go. Bread and cheese, the perfect way to kickstart our post-Thanksgiving diet, right, Wesley?
Oh, that's right.
I'm making him eat a lot on the show today. Welcome back. If you're just tuning in now, we are at the Melting Pot. The reason that we are here is all of October, they have chosen as their charity of choice, ACT Alberta. It's a very important organization in the city. They've only been around for about 5 years, though, so still fairly new. But they work to respond to human trafficking scenarios here in Edmonton. Human trafficking is very hard to spot. Victims are often invisible, it's underground, it's organized crime, but it affects men, women, and children. And coming up in the show, we're going to be speaking with Andrea of ACT Alberta, and she's going to let us know a little bit more about what they do here in the city. And Wesley is going to be talking to us shortly about how to make the perfect fondue. This one is a spinach and artichoke dip. I'm going to go for some veggies and dive in with some broccoli here.
Nice and garlicky.
Yeah, nice and garlicky, and not the best way to start my day if I plan on losing that turkey weight, but hey, when in Rome. Before I dive into this, though, we are going to hit the streets with Shaw TV's Tim Dancy to talk about the 2015 vote. Here's Tim. Multiple historic sites are not always a thing of absolute beauty, but in the case of this most recently declared resource, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Here's Shaw TV's Tim Dancy. We've stepped away from the fondue for just a moment because we're here to chat with Wesley Greer of the Melting Pot. You have a charity of the month every month. Why was ACT Alberta the choice for October?
It's something that's just big in the city. Lots of people, like you said before, don't really realize that's a problem. It always is in another country, another place, but it is happening here. And so we at the Melting Pot just want to take ownership for that and just do our part.
And talk a little bit about you personally, how you learned about ACT Alberta. You were telling me you have friends who've traveled and do work with human trafficking.
Yeah, they travel several times a year down to Mexico and actually rescue girls out of the industry. And so it's really heavy just to hear these stories and just to actually meet some of the women. So it's affected my life in a big way, and so I just want to start giving back right here, right now. So.
And talk a little bit about the different events you're putting on throughout the month.
Well, we have 4 different events, actually. We have our Ladies' Night Out, which is the last Monday of the month. Ladies dress up for Halloween, obviously, which will be a lot of fun. But the charity actually comes down, has a presence here, and just gets to build a relationship with some of the guests. We also host a mini gala, which is for 40 people. We donate all the food for 4 courses, and it's just a lot of fun where just the donators get to meet with the charity themselves and just kind of connect. And we also have a charity chocolate and a silent auction item, which we host throughout the month. So just kind of non-intrusive ways where we can kind of connect the charity to the guests and just, get the word out there.
Awesome. And your website for more information where people can get tickets?
www.meltingpot.com/Edmonton.
Awesome. Wesley, thank you so much. Stay tuned. Wesley's going to do some chocolate fonduing with us coming up as well. We'll be right back here on Go. First goes in the 151 rum, and then we light it on fire. Woo! Welcome back to the show. If you're just tuning in now, we are once again at the Melting Pot, and I'm joined by Wesley and Andrea of ACT Alberta. We're going to be chatting with Andrea in just a moment about what their organization does. They help victims of human trafficking here in the city. You guys, why don't you show off what we're fondueing? This fondue is their special chocolate caramel fondue that ACT Alberta has created as the feature fondue of the month. We've got some strawberries, cheesecake, brownies, bananas, some other chocolate goodies, some pineapple in there. Why don't you guys get started as our flame's gone down here? Just dive right in. So it's a lot of fun to mix food and chocolate. We did some cheese before the break. Oh, that was, yeah, there we go. Just get right in there. Coat the entire thing. Stay tuned. Andrea is coming up in the show. And at the end of the show, we're going to give a couple tickets away to their special event happening this Thursday. So stay tuned for that. But first, with the federal election, I'm just going to borrow your stick. Yeah, right. With the federal election just around the corner, up next, we learn how local artists are having their voices heard as part of a national event. Here's Sean TV's Jen McDonald with your next story. And that is how you coat some fondue. And double dip in some fruit. Oh, come on, Andrea. Get that banana. All right, up next, a local high school has been dubbed one of the greenest schools in Canada. How'd they do it? Here's Sean TV's Jordan Hertner. We're now joined by Andrea Burkhart with ACT Alberta, and like I mentioned, you're a fairly new organization in the city.
That's right.
Let's start off with what ACT stands for and what you do here in Edmonton.
Sure. So ACT is the Action Coalition on Human Trafficking. We're a provincial organization with a chapter here in Edmonton, and we work collaboratively with law enforcement, government agencies, and other service providers to identify and respond to human trafficking here in Edmonton.
Okay. And what exactly do you do to aid human trafficking victims and prevent further situations?
Right. Good question. So human trafficking is a very underreported and under-identified human rights issue and crime. So we do, starting at the beginning, we help other organizations identify human trafficking because it's very hard to spot. And oftentimes victims of human trafficking don't identify as such. They might come forward to an agency and ask for help, but it may take quite a bit of resources and quite a bit of research and digging to actually identify the human trafficking elements. So we do everything from that education and training right up to advocating for immigration status for victims of trafficking, helping coordinate services, getting them into shelters, getting them access to counseling if that's what they require, and sometimes helping a victim of trafficking return home if that's what they decide they want.
I was watching the PSA on your website, and it shows human trafficking in many different forms. Why don't you, for maybe those who don't understand what human trafficking is, can you describe a few different scenarios?
Sure. So human trafficking is a very broad terminology which can represent many different forms of exploitation. This can happen to men, women, or children. And we've seen human trafficking here in Alberta for forced labor, for forced sexual exploitation, and also for a combination of both labor and sexual exploitation. So you referenced our PSA on our website, which shows 3 examples, all of which are happening to youth, but we see this issue happening as well to adults. And really, human trafficking works in an environment where traffickers see a vulnerability in somebody and they exploit that vulnerability. So that can look like offering an opportunity for a better life in Canada, and then when someone arrives, maybe that opportunity doesn't really exist. And in fact, they're forced to sell either sex or their labor and are exploited for it in that way.
What are some stats here in Edmonton behind human trafficking?
So statistics are difficult to gather, primarily because identifying this issue in the first place is difficult. What we do know is that across the province, we have seen reports and referrals into our organization double. So year on year, for about the last 4 years, we've seen the number of victims of human trafficking doubling every year. And that's a tremendous increase, and I think what that really demonstrates is the increase in awareness and the increase in partnerships and collaboration that we've seen. What we do know is that about half of the human trafficking cases that we see are for sexual exploitation, and about 45% have elements of labor trafficking. So we don't see them necessarily exclusively either. Sometimes we do see cases where there are sex and labor trafficking happening concurrently.
Andrea, your website for more information.
Yes, it's www.actalberta.org.
Thanks so much
Thank
for your
you.
time. Before we go, here is your on-the-go calendar. All right, if you want to win your way into the Fondue-Raising Gala happening this Thursday at the Melting Pot in support of ACT Alberta, just tweet us at ShotTVEDM. We want to know, when was ACT Alberta founded? Let us know the answer. But in the meantime, to also get your tickets before they're all sold out, head to eventbrite.ca or actalberta.org. I've been your host, Dana Giesbrecht. I'm going for the cheesecake. We'll see you next time.